Welcome, everybody, to Lee's podcast. Well, my guest today used to live here in Milwaukee, but now lives in California. How you doing, Calvin?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so like I said earlier during the pre-show, I guess, this is the first time I'm doing this with someone by phone. So I have another guest that I want to do this by phone. Hopefully that work out, but you're the first. And so whoever's listening, it's not, it might not be the best quality, but it is what it is. So before we start, let me introduce you, right, Calvin? You're obviously you're Calvin Vang. Let's see here. I know you because you're my brother-in-law's brother-in-law, right?
Yeah.
And you grew up. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, Calvin.
I actually was born in Fresno, California, and then in 2000 of July, my family and we moved to Milwaukee, and then kind of lived the rest of my life there for the next 16 years. Graduated from college, and then moved back out here to Fresno to kind of look for work and I guess trace back my roots.
Yeah, I know when you were here living in Milwaukee, I know, I mean, even before you have what you have now, you used to fish a lot, right? And that's why you're here. And the reason why I have you on here is because you're a big time kayak fisherman. And
yeah.
Dude, that was new. I'm like, I didn't know this. And I was watching Greg Blanchard YouTube, right? Mm-hmm. And I typically look at, okay, who are the winners, the results. And I saw your name, Calvin Vang, California, and you were at the top 5. Actually, you were 5th, right? During that tournament, the California Championship tournament.
Made it right at the cut line, yeah.
Yeah, and he said in his YouTube video, yep, only top 5 can make it to the national championship. I'm like, no way, that can't be Calvin that I know, right? So I reached out to your sister, and I'm like, Nancy, is that Calvin? Is that the same Calvin, like your brother Calvin? She's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, no way. No way. So I'm like, I cannot believe that. And so I figured, okay, I'll have to have you come in and talk about your experience. And so I guess folks who's listening, Calvin is a kayak fisherman. Specifically, what species?
Yeah, so mainly largemouth bass, bass, so smallmouth, largemouth, and then over here in California we have spotted bass. So those 3 species.
We don't have spotted bass here in Wisconsin. Is that because it's too cold or what?
I don't know if it's too cold because I know that they exist out there in the Midwest too. More southern though. But I think it's just, I don't think they're from California. They were brought over. I don't really know the whole history of them, but they were brought over from, I think, like Alabama or Tennessee or something like that, and they were just put into our system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me backtrack a little bit. Let's cover the national championship, the national bass championship that took place in Chattanooga, Tennessee, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the classic where I'll be headed to.
Oh, that has not happened yet, has it?
That has not happened yet. I'll be headed there in March. In
March of next year?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Somehow I thought it was this year. What are there any more tournaments this year for you?
So I have one tournament left, and that is with the Bass Nation or California Bass Nation, and I'll be fishing the co-angler side. So I won't be on a kayak for that. I'll be at the back of a boat fishing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so I do a little bit of both, right? So I do a little bit of kayak, I do a little bit of boat, but for me, I don't own a boat, so that's why I'm fishing the co-angler side of the Bass Nation.
I was going to say, how does that work? Like, are you paired with someone, or do you find someone you can pair with?
Yeah, so it's actually pretty cool. So anyone can be a part of this. They just need a Bass membership. So you sign up for this, and then out here in California and throughout all of the states, they have a Bass Nation event where anyone can come and compete. And then, like we're not pros or anything like that. We're just trying to compete to try to get to the pro league.
Mm-hmm.
For me, so I'm fishing the co-angler. So what that means is I don't own a boat, and I sign up, and then for whoever owns a boat, we kind of get paired with them on that day. Yeah.
Oh,
So
it's on that
yeah.
day.
So, yeah. So you're not fishing with the same guy for every event. So like this Bass Nation event, there's 5 events total, and what they do is, so all you have to do is you have to fish 3 out of the 5 events, and there's a point system. So depending on how you place, so say like first place gets 200 points, and then second place gets 199, and so forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the year, they tally your best finishes, your top 3 best finishes, and if you uh, end up being in the top 10, they send you to what's called national. So um, everyone on the West Coast, so Arizona, Oregon, Utah, California, you name it all. Everyone in the West Coast, we're gonna go and meet up in one area. Depending on how Bassmaster choose their place for us, and we're all gonna go and compete there. And then the top 10 for your state that you're representing, you get to go to national, and you compete there and try to make it to the classics that way to compete with the elite.
Okay. Now we're talking
So
about on the boat, not on the kayak.
yeah, not on the kayak. So this is all
On the boat.
boat. Yeah.
How many have you fished so far? Is this your last one, you said?
So I have one more event. So as of right now, where I'm at right now, with the Bass Nation, I'm currently sitting in 4th place with my top 3 best
Ooh,
finishes.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So, whether I go or not, it's just for this last event, it's just to try to place higher and make sure that nobody bumps me.
Oh,
So that's,
yes.
yeah. So that's my last event. And then, yeah, like I mentioned, everyone at the end of that event, they'll tally up the points, and then they'll let you know who makes the California state team, which
Okay.
I was fortunate enough to qualify. So last year I qualified for the California state team, and this year we actually went to Arizona to go fish out there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we fished Lake Havasu, and it was amazing. Like there was just so many guys. Like I think over 120 boats or something like that was out there, and
Wow.
yeah, so it was pretty awesome.
Because you're in the back, you don't
Mhm.
get to decide where you're going, right? It's the guy who owns
Nope.
the boat decides where
Yeah,
he's going.
so
Okay.
so the operator, they just take you, and then you're pretty much fishing against the boater. you know, the boater being in the front gets to control how the boat moves. They're gonna get to throw into the best places first, and then you kind of get secondhand, and then hopefully that fish is there, or you figure something else out, and the fish take your bait instead of the boaters.
But
Um,
you guys are all still competing with each other. You're competing with him.
right. Yep.
Dude,
Um,
for you
yeah.
for you to place where you're at and for you to fish behind them, man.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. And fortunately, like for us, for the guys that fish in the back of the boat, you're only required to catch 3 fish for a daily limit.
Okay.
The boaters require 5 fish, which makes it a little bit more difficult for them. So, but 3 fish within 8 hours is still pretty tough, when you're fishing behind someone who's really good too.
So that's the boating part of it, right? So
Mhm.
so right now, just to review, you're sitting at 4th place. And then for that national championship, is that for this year or next year? That's for next year, isn't it?
That will be for the following year. So
Okay.
each year you're always trying to qualify for the following year.
Okay.
So it's a long, long journey. I can tell you that.
Man, I try to watch and I try to follow. A couple years back, I was into bass fishing. I was trying to follow them with their Bassmaster and the other league or whatever that they fish up in lacrosse. And
Mhm.
it's hard for me to follow them because they're it's not like sports. Like sports like football and basketball. When the season starts, but bass is a little
Right.
different. So it's just a whole
Mhm.
different setup.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult. I mean, like I don't know too much of it, but there's kind of like a lottery system where they go and submit, um and don't quote me on all of this, but they go and they submit for this lake, and then they have to get approved by that city. And then, like with such a big event, it's like, okay, yeah, well, you could come and, do your event here.
Mm.
That's, yeah, so it's pretty difficult when they're all like, there's so many big events. There's like the Bassmaster, there's the FLW, MLS. I mean, FLW doesn't exist anymore, but all these other big events competing with all these smaller, local guys who are trying to run their events too. So,
Oh yeah.
uh, yeah, it's kind of hard to like get that particular lake or, but I mean, yeah, like that's the small little process I know, but Bassmaster, they kind of like have their own thing going on. They kind of got it figured out, but everyone's always gambling for like a lake.
Is that the same for kayak also?
Yes. So yeah, so and then that's why every year they try to get a different lake for us just because um everyone is trying to rotate lakes because they don't want to be fishing the same uh body of water.
Oh, that would
So
make sense.
yeah, so they're always trying to change it up.
So that's fishing from boats, and kayak is that a whole different process? Different. I'm assuming different rules. How you score is a little different, right? For boats,
Yeah.
boats is by
hmm
weights, isn't it?
Yep. So
Kayak is by length.
yep. So boat, we have to bring our fish back to the weighing station, and then we weigh our fish live, and then we release them from there. But for kayak, we measure them there. Um, we have to use our certified board, which is by catch board. So you have to use that board, and then we have what's called an identifier. So it pretty much gives you like a code or something for that day, just to stay legitimate, to say, yeah, this fish was caught on this very day on this event. Um, yeah, so then you measure the fish right then and there. You take a picture and you submit it to the app, which is called X. That's what they use to you know keep track of everyone's catch.
Mm.
And then you release your fish right then and there, which is pretty cool, right? Because like conservation is a pretty important thing. The fish gets to go home right away after being caught, rather than getting taken 3 miles away to the weigh station and then you drop it off. And then like for those who don't really fish might not know this, but like sometimes we catch our fish like super deep, like 60, 70 feet of water. You're bringing these fish up, and if you don't get them back into the water, their bladder kind of like fills up with air, and then they can't go
Oh,
back in, and they
yeah.
die. So yeah, so uh like this kayak thing, which is blowing up, is pretty cool because you take a picture of the fish and it gets to go home right away.
Did you start off when you went to California? Did you start off kayak fishing, or did you start off with a boat? Like.
So I was actually doing the co-angler side when I was in college. Um,
Oh, you
so I was
did.
fishing, yeah. So I fished the collegiate series as well when
Oh,
I
I
was
didn't
in
know that.
college. Yeah,
Wait. Did you go to Whitewater, or would you go?
yeah. I went to University of Wisconsin Whitewater,
Okay.
and yeah. So I found out that there was a fishing team there, and I'm like, that's the first time I've ever heard of it. This is back in 2009, such a long time ago. Yes, I found out that there was a fishing team, and I'm like, what? Like fishing team? Like what do they do? Like I mean, you've seen like the Bassmaster and all these elites, and it's like, are you doing exactly that? So then I went in and got more information, and yeah, that was exactly how you would try to go and get into the elite series. Because I mean, growing up back in the 2000 when I first saw Bassmaster on TV, that's what I wanted to do. And like internet was so limited back then. Like it's like, how do you get into that? Like, do you just get born lucky and get pulled in to be elite, or like what do I have to do? I didn't know these things. So like in 2009, going to college, uh, there was like a little club fair that was going on, and then yeah, kind of went in there, and it's like, hey, I want to do this. But for me, like, I'll admit, I took a very long time to graduate. So from 2009, I was in college, and then I didn't graduate until 2016 because I was changing majors all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, like throughout the whole time, I was with the bass fishing team, but I never once got to fish because, like all the guys in there who did own boats, and, we're all college students. Like, how many college students own a boat? They're either using their parents' boat or something like that. But, they all had their friends. So it's like, yeah, like I want this guy to fish with me. So then you have to wait for an opening. It wasn't until 2015 where one of the guys, and it was so lucky, right? Um, like just the way it happened. So one of the guys that I knew, he was a co-angler for one of the guys, and he had a internship for the Wisconsin DNR. And it just so happened that this was the regional qualifier that we were going into. So this friend of mine, he came and said, "Hey, you've been with the team for a while. I know you can catch fish. Did you want to fill in for me?" And I said, "Yes." Right. So they're like, "Okay, well then you like pack your stuff. You're going to Chicago or you're going to Illinois. You're going to be fishing in Clinton Lake, and you're going to try to qualify for the nationals there." So I'm like, "Oh shoot!" Like I had one day, so I was packing off my gears,
Yeah.
and I'm headed down there to meet up with Andrew, the boater, and he's like, "You're my guy." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Calvin. I'm your guy." So we're fishing there, and then it was awesome. Like 2015, finishing up my senior year, and we qualify for the nationals. We got fourth
Wow.
place. Yeah, we got fourth place, and then we're headed to Kentucky the following year. I'm like, this is crazy. Like this is my last year. Like I've never fished anything like this before. So yeah, we're headed to Kentucky the following year, and then yeah, we fished the national events. We finished at 16th place, I believe. So we didn't qualify to go to fish the classics, but just getting that experience. So I was like, what do you call it? I was addicted. I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, I want to do this. Like, but yeah, after graduating, everyone kind of went their own way, and I didn't really know what to do anymore. So I was like, I'm moving out to California to go find a job, and then it wasn't for another 2 years until I started. After I moved to California, where I started kayak fishing.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, because I honestly, I literally sold everything that I had just to have little money. As I moved to California, and I literally had maybe like after gas and food and stops and everything like that. Um, and I had a little bit of trouble coming to California too, but that's another story for another day.
We can talk off the
Yeah,
air.
yeah, yeah. So like I had like literally $900 left in my pocket when I made it to California.
Wow.
So yeah, so I wasn't gonna like go and pick up a kayak right away or like pick up a boat. Yeah, because like it's expensive, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, with all the travel and the entry fee, I just wasn't able to do it. So it took me like another 2 years until I was actually able to get back into tournament fishing.
Now, in the back of your mind, that's where you ultimately wanted to be at, right? In those tournaments?
Definitely.
Okay. Man, see, you touch upon one of the questions I wanted to ask you was the cost of it all,
Hmm.
and I know friends and family that, oh yeah, even with Neil, you remember Neil, my son, right?
Yeah, yeah.
He loves fishing. He's like, man, Dad, I want to
Hmm.
be a professional fisherman. Well, it's gonna be harder than you think, and so now that I know, now that you're going through it, I'm gonna have Neil talk to you because that boy loves fishing, but
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but let me ask this: with the cost of it all, since you brought up cost, the cost of it all, like how much? And you don't have to specify like how much you bought it for, but you have to have a kayak to fish.
Right.
You borrow one in the beginning? Did you buy one? Did you buy a cheap one? Did you upgrade? How did how's your setup?
Yeah. When I first started, um, I guess when I first started, the whole pedal kayaking thing was just kind of like blowing up. And those were like in the thousands range, right? And like I was still working, like retail, and I wasn't going to be able to afford that. So, um, luckily for me, my girlfriend, uh, her brother-in-law had a kayak that he didn't use anymore, and I was like, "Hey, can I buy this off of you?"
Yeah.
And yeah, so he was like, "Yeah, like I'll give you a discount for it," and he sold it to me for like $500. I mean, it was pretty, at that price for me, like it was pretty steep, but I bought it anyway because I'm like, and thankfully for my girlfriend, like she was super supportive of me too, like me wanting to like tournament fish because I wanted to get back into it, no matter how, like any way possible, right? So my girlfriend was like, "Hey, like kayak is like a really big thing right now. Like maybe you should give that a go before you try to get back into like the boat scene." So I'm like, okay. So yeah, I got this kayak off of my girlfriend's brother-in-law for $500, and it was a Jackson kayak. It was a sit on top, but it was like with paddles only. You could like there was no electronics on there whatsoever, and I'm like going to these tournaments, and everyone has like these nice Hobies where like super spacious. Everyone's like pedaling. They're like super fast, and I'm over here getting bullied by the wind because I'm paddling.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. So I had this little kayak, and I was the only guy with the paddle kayak, and everyone's looking at me like I'm crazy for even trying it. But honestly, like I did really well. Like I was able to make it to the top 50 and go fish the tournament of champions at Clear Lake with it. And yeah, like I did pretty well with it.
You didn't
Um,
you didn't obviously at that time when you first started,
mhm.
they didn't use motors, did they? Because now people are using motors on their kayaks.
At that time, there were a few guys who were able to put motors on there.
Okay.
Like I'm pretty sure you've watched like Damien Tao.
Yes.
Um, yeah. So he was like one of the first guys to throw a trolling motor on his kayak to like get to new places, and then that kind of like sparked the light bulb in every like all these guys who's been competing forever. Like I'm gonna throw a T motor on mine too, and I'm over here like I can't compete with these guys. And they're like at blast off, they're gone, and
Yeah.
here I am paddling. Like it'll take me like for me to get to a spot, that 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 I found that was really good. It'll probably take me an hour to get there paddling. These guys will get there within 10, 15 minutes.
Man.
Yeah. So it was a struggle, but I stuck with it and just kind of like stuck with what I knew. Like I really had to use my knowledge of like fishing, like what are they gonna bite? Like what time are they gonna bite? Like should I go here or should I go there? Like I had to put all that together to be able to, you know, be just as good as these guys who are getting to their places faster.
So what did you do then? Obviously, it takes you an hour to get there. Did you just fish somewhere closer to the launch, or?
Yeah. So yeah, so that was kind of like my mentality. I was like, I have to um really maximize my fishing time rather than changing places because like I can't just hop from one spot to the next. It takes me at least 30 minutes to get to another spot. So and time is crucial because you only have that 8 hours to fish. So, when you're using 30 minutes, and then say you get there and it's like, oh my gosh, like I need to tie on this bait. You're losing another 2, 3 minutes. Doesn't sound like a lot, but those time add up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had to so like during the pre fishing time, I definitely had to look closer and try to maximize my fishing time to be able to just catch just as much fish as these guys.
I think you proved the point, which is even with hunting, is that
Hmm.
you don't have to go the furthest or the deepest to shoot a deer. I mean, sometimes
Right.
deer are closer than you think, you know. And with
Hmm.
fish, I'm assuming I mean, you just proved that is that you don't have to go that far to find fish. And goodness gracious, you've been doing really well. How's your setup now? Is this you're not fishing the same Jackson kayak, are you? Did you upgrade?
Yeah. So I've done quite a bit of upgrading since then. Um, Now I'm in a Hobie,
Okay.
and it's uh it's still very hard to believe. Like I always look at those and it's like, wow, like I would love to be in that one day. And today, like I own one, and I absolutely love it. Every moment that I'm on there, it's like, wow, like this is such a game changer.
Yeah. So you don't have a motor on yours, do you?
No, so
Well, they
you
allow
know,
you to have motors, don't they?
yep. So
Okay.
we're allowed to have motor. But for me, as of right now, I just haven't been able to make that upgrade just quite yet. I mean, I've been honestly, I've been pretty hesitant on putting one in,
Okay.
just because like for personal reasons, like I'm trying to save to get married. I'm getting at that
Oh,
age.
okay. Little
I'm
side
getting
note
to,
there, huh?
yeah, yeah. So I'm kind of like getting at that age where my parents and my girlfriend's parents is like, "Are you guys gonna get married? Like you guys have been together too long." So yeah, so it's kind of in the back burners. Like I want to do it, but it's like I shouldn't quite yet. you know?
Okay, listen, whoever's listening, okay, Calvin, okay, let me stop you there. Whoever's listening, right? Guys, if you're listening and you love to fish, I think Calvin is a perfect example of knowing his responsibility. He knows I mean, he can enjoy fishing plus have his life together at the same time without juggling both, which you are, but at least you can have your cake and eat it. Man,
Yeah,
well, you
yeah.
know what? Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Your sister didn't tell us, but yeah, but so your kayak is now a hobby. You have it set up. Can you go a little further out now, or are you still kind of sticking to your plan of, you know what, I don't have to go that far. This has been working for me. I've just been fishing closer. You know, what's your plan now?
Yeah. So I mean, like I still kind of keep that mentality. Like all the guys that I'm going up against they're running motors. They're running farther. I still keep the mentality of, I yeah, I could go a little farther, but I still try to maximize my fishing time. Because like weather is unpredictable. Sometimes you think it's like a perfect day out there, all of a sudden, you get like a 20, 25 miles per hour wind gust, and it's like, shoot, you got to make it back to the launch on time. Um, so yeah, I even though with the Hobie, I could go a little farther. I still choose to fish just a little closer, um, to maximize my fishing time because for me, um, I try not to complicate things.
Mm-hmm.
If I find like a good area, I'm gonna work that area. I'm not trying to move around a lot. I know there are guys who like to move around a lot, but for me, like I love finesse fishing, so meaning that I fish super slow. So
Yeah, no
yeah,
cranks for you.
so I'm fishing super slow. I'm working the whole area. I'm gonna milk it however I can. So yeah, that's kind of like my mentality when I'm out there.
Have you had a bad day, and how do you deal with it then?
Oh man, bad day. Yeah. So in July, um, I had my kayak pro tour at Lake Trinity, and I won my first pro tour event. And that was the first win that I've ever had throughout my whole career. So it felt great. Like I was on top of the world. And then we had a qualifier um, at Lake Berryessa, and I went out there and I absolutely zeroed. Like I had no fish,
No fish.
like
Wow.
no fish at all.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like I was able to see fish on my graph, and no matter what I did, like I just could not get a nibble, and that humbled me really quickly. It's like you can have a really great day and be on top of the world, and then going to the next lake is like, yeah, you're not that great just yet. It's like, wow, like these fish just don't want to bite. So yeah, I've had really bad days before, and I think that was my worst yet. So I had zero fish that day, and um, that really threw me in for a loop. I'm like, what was I doing wrong? Like I threw everything that I had, um, and then there were guys out there that was in the same spot as me, and they were catching fish. So I really had to like backtrack myself and really think like, okay, like what are they doing that I'm not? Or, um, how can I better myself? Like, how can I better prepare myself?
Hmm.
Yeah. But to be quite honest with you, like that Lake Berryessa, when I went, I didn't pre-fish. I went,
Oh,
yeah, I went in blind, and
okay.
I think that's where it hurt me. Because I thought I was gonna be able to go out there and just go locate some rock piles and I'll catch fish, no problem. But that wasn't the case for me. So,
How many days do they allow you to pre-fish?
so for these events, they allow one day for you to pre-fish right before the tournament.
That's it.
Yep, that's it.
And but
Yeah. So,
yeah, go ahead.
okay. Oh, yeah. So I was just gonna say, like um, work. I had to work, and I wasn't able to take the day off to go and pre-fish. So, um, I had to take responsibility first, and
Hmm.
then try to go out there and try to catch fish to catch a check or something. But yeah, it sometimes it doesn't work out, sometimes it does.
Well, what matters the most is that when you do capitalize on it, you make the most of it. And because you're right, I mean, you have your highs and you have your lows, but man, those
Mhm.
highs are highs, aren't they?
Yeah.
Uh, so let's come back to your championship for next year.
Hmm.
How are you? I mean, is there a way to prepare for that? Because you mentioned like, okay, you can pre-fish, right?
Hmm.
So, without giving secrets out or whatever, but how are you going to prepare for that one for next year? The championship
Yeah.
one.
So the championship that's gonna be in Tennessee. So that's many states over. I'm not there right now to go and look at the lake. Um, and then we haven't been given the information of when we could go and pre-fish. So right now, all I can do is try to go online and get as much information as I can.
Okay.
Um, I'm going to be looking at, like, okay, yeah, it's a river system. Is it a grass system? Is it, is it rocky? What kind of bait fish are in this lake? And then try to see, like, try to use YouTube as much as I could to look at other guys who are fishing it. Say, um, what are these guys doing to catch these fish? I'm looking at how, where are the bigger fish coming from? Are they fishing deep? Are they fishing shallow? And then just trying to gather all the information I can from that. Um, I know we're going to be allowed a few days to go and pre-fish before the tournament actually happens.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'll be taking some time off of work, and Damien, one of the qualifiers as well,
Yes, I saw
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So both him and I, we are headed there together. So we're gonna go and free fish, and then yeah, see how things go from there.
Because because you're right. I mean, you've been fishing California. It's a little different than fishing out east, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so, I think that pre-fish is important. But from what you said, you just can't go there and just casually fish. They won't let you do that. Like even now.
So like right now, it's gonna be off limits for us. You can't even go and be near the water.
Oh, seriously?
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. So they're pretty strict, but it's for good reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want to be caught in that scandal like they did with those wildlife fishermen. Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is that was way too extreme, man.
Yeah.
Putting
That's
lead
that's
weights.
yeah. That's one of the biggest scandal that's happened so far in quite a long while.
I,
And it yeah. I mean, it's crazy that, but it's good that they were caught. I mean, can you imagine if they had gotten away with it?
and all the
You know.
money they won so far up to this point. So
But
hey, how do you? So let me no. Let's get to some technicality about kayak fishing because I have two kayaks myself. I try to get into kayak fishing. I actually have a Old Town Sportsman with a
yeah.
Minn Kota motor.
Oh,
It's
nice.
it's not the spot lock one. It's just the one that goes in the middle. I bought that for my wife so we can, I can go fishing and we can do some other stuff too. And then I
Uh,
got myself a pedal, not a pedal, a paddle one, so I can just. But anyway, how do you transport your kayak? Do you have a truck? Do you have someone help you transport the kayak? Because I mean, you have to get that to the lake somehow.
yeah. Yeah. So as of right now, I have a truck.
Okay, good.
Um. Yeah. I don't. A lot of the guys out here, they're starting to use trailers now. Uh.
Oh,
Yeah, to transport their kayak, but not for me. I still load it up to the bed of the truck. Um. Yeah. So it's still a lot of heavy lifting, and anyone who has ever lifted a Kobe knows what I'm talking about. Just how heavy it is,
it's like what
to
80,
uh,
80, 90 or something? Empty, like with.
oh, it's 100 and I think 120 bare boat.
Whoa, yeah, that's
Yeah,
without all the
it's
electronics and everything
yeah,
else.
yeah. And like us guys who tournament fish, we have our 10 rods and we have all of our worms and creatures and weights. Yeah, like we bring our whole life with us, so we we have like an extra 100 pounds of weight. So yeah, it's a pretty heavy kayak, but for me, I kind of found a system where it's not so heavy. I mean, there's a lot of like boating etiquettes, right, where you're not blocking the way the whole time.
Yes.
Um, so I try to move my kayak out of the way, unload all my gears that I can to get the kayak, or to like lighten up the kayak, and then um, I'll load up the kayak at the ramp. Just so I'm not in the way. Um, that seems to work for me. It's a long process, but it's easier on the back.
I have to say, because that's how I transport my two kayak. I have one of
Mhm.
those bed extender that I bought from,
Yep.
where is it? That one store. I bought it somewhere. It's a bed extender because mine's obviously is 10 feet. So,
Mhm.
on my Tacoma, my Tacoma is not long enough. So, but it
Yeah.
works. But you're right.
Mhm.
It's for me, actually, I prefer that than a trailer because you have to worry about the length of the trailer. For me, I can just back it up, unload
Mhm.
it, drop everything off, park, and then come back and take care of everything else. So for
Right.
me, that actually
Right.
works better than a trailer anyway. I've looked into getting a trailer, but I'm like, why spend the money? I can buy extra fishing gear with that stuff.
True.
So,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pros and cons that comes with the trailer. I like at Clear Lake, when I was out there, the lake wasn't as clear as its name.
it's
You know,
not.
it's not.
Yeah.
The water level has gone down, and
Oh, because of the
all
drought,
the
you mean?
yeah, with the drought, and then like all the grass and trash has came up to the ramp where everything is so shallow.
Oh,
And yeah, like when you step in all these goop, and it's gross, right?
yeah.
You don't want to step in that. luckily for me, when I was at that ramp, Taz, um, I don't know if you're familiar with Taz, but
Is it Taz Moore?
yeah, Taz Moore.
I've seen his name on the when I watch the YouTube of Greg Blanchard, I see his name on
Yeah,
there quite a bit too.
yeah, he's a pretty well known guy out here in Fresno as well, and like him and Damien, they're the Hmong guys up there, out here in Fresno, showing everyone how it's done, and yeah, so Taz was out there with his trailer, and I was like, hey Taz, can you just load my kayak up and pull me up? It made life really easy. I didn't have to step into the goop, and like of course, like my kayak was like coated in it, but at least like
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's its pros and cons with trailers. Um, yeah, I mean, I like it, just for the convenience, but it does get in the way. It does get more expensive as well, because like there are places where you have to pay for like extra for having a trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to mention the space at home, right? If you you
Yeah.
have to keep a trailer there,
Exactly. Yeah.
So since we're talking about equipments and kayak, let's talk about a little bit about equipments. So what are you fishing with?
So for me, as of right now, like I'm not, um, it put in bad terms, like I'm not like loyal to a brand right now.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh,
and
with that being said, you don't have sponsors. Let's talk about sponsors a little later. But I mean, you don't have sponsors, do you?
so as of right now, like my sponsors, they're local businesses out here in Fresno.
Oh, okay.
I don't have like
Like
big,
fishing company
yeah,
sponsor. Okay.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm in the search for it, but I'm not like in a hurry for it.
Okay.
And that's one thing that I was gonna touch on when you asked me about like what I use. Um, and when I say I'm not loyal to a brand is because, um, it kind of gives me the freedom to go and try out different products, right?
Yes.
Like right now, I have like a lot of Shimano rods, but I also have Daiwa rods. I have Mega Bass rods, and I get to take these rods out and I'm using it for different applications, and I could compare all of them, and then I could go out and say like if I wanted a different rod, I could go and pick that out. Um, but for me, like right now, everything that I use is really cheap. Um, like my Daiwa rods that I use right now, it's the aired rod, which is a $50 rod.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not trying to go super expensive where I'm breaking the bank just to go and catch some fish, because you could catch a fish with any rod or any reel.
Wait. Say that again.
You could go and catch fish with any rod or any reel, you know?
It doesn't have to be the most expensive, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
And I say that proudly, because like, I'm not gonna lie. I was a victim of that, right? When I wanted to tournament fish, I wasn't gonna go and fish it until I had like the best of the best gear. And then it wasn't until like my girlfriend, honestly, like it was my girlfriend who's like, if you're gonna wait until you have all the best stuff, you're never gonna have all the best stuff because they're always gonna be creating something new.
that is so true. Yeah.
Yeah. So then she's like, with what you have now, just go and do it. And then when the time comes, you could start building up your arsenal however you want.
Mm-hmm.
So because if you're gonna sit and wait, you're only losing time, and time is precious. If you're not starting now, when are you gonna start? So
Listen, man.
uh,
Now I see why you're marrying her, man. She is a keeper. Goodness gracious.
he is a keeper. Yes. Yeah. She's my biggest support. I always joke around with the guys that I fish with. It's like she's my sponsor.
She's your sponsor and your biggest supporter, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to touch base on her for a little bit, but before we do, like equipment wise, and you're right, I would agree because I have to call out my nephew, but my nephew spent, I don't know, close to $1,000 on his setup, right? Like, is he winning tournaments? Well, he's not playing. He's not fishing tournaments, but is he catching the most fish? Is he catching, not necessarily, but I've seen some guys that are using the ugly stick, right? Ugly. Who doesn't have an ugly stick?
I mean, we all started with it at one point, right?
Yeah, I have a few in my garage right now, and I mean, I can have my Shimano and my baitcaster and my nephews. They're using ugly sticks, and they can outfish me. So you're right. It's not about the equipment. Part of it is, but it's about. I think you hit it on the nail. It's about the preparation. I think you're preparing for it and trying to fish more methodically with the equipment that you have. Would you think that you'll catch more fish with more expensive equipment then?
There are times when it comes in handy because like how rods are created, there's like sensitivity.
Yes.
Right? I mean, I've never held a $500 rod or whatsoever, but I could guarantee that, like when you're hitting rocks on bottom, you could feel that much more than if you were to use an ugly stick. Sometimes fish are finicky. They'll bite your bait and they'll spit it out right away. And if you're not fast enough, if you don't detect them, you lose that fish. I mean, you're already going to be second guessing like, was that a fish or was that a rock? And then if like hook sets are free, and if you don't try to set the hook on that, you'll never know. So I could see where more expensive rod will come in handy. But for me, I just don't have that kind of expendable money.
Well, hey, listen, if a sponsor comes knocking, I hope you answer.
I'll be waiting.
Yeah. So, but hey, okay. Let me ask a few questions here. Because we've been talking about equipment and your journey up to this point. I want to backtrack a little bit, going way back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your sister shared her story with me when they used to live in One Lake, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where did you go out fishing here in Milwaukee?
I fished the Fox River a lot.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Did you go to, let me see here. Did you go to Burlington? Because, Burlington, Whitewater is not that far.
Yeah. Yep. So fished Burlington a lot. What is it? Fort Atkinson.
Yes. Where all the Hmong people go.
Yeah. All the white bass.
All the white bass. Right now here in Milwaukee, well, at least here in Wisconsin, walleyes. Walleyes are huge right now. And so we're actually going tomorrow night to go walleye fishing with the boys. And so, but what's the other place that Rochester?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Do you remember Rochester?
Yep. Nice little pool, or kind of like where it kind of like pulls up right there.
Right by the dam?
Yeah.
No one goes there anymore.
Really?
We went there last year, the year before, and hardly anybody goes there. There's hardly any fish there anymore, to be honest. And
that was the hot spot. That's where I really learned how to fish. Like I was catching buffaloes and quillbacks out there on just marabou jigs. I learned how to catch pikes and muskies out there.
Yes.
Yeah. And even catfishing, like any kind of fish you could think of, walleye, crappies, bluegills, white bass, like they were all there.
They were, you're right. They were. I was talking to your sister Nancy, and she was telling me a story that, did you used to live with them?
Or, I did.
Yeah.
I lived with them for a while I was going to college.
Yeah. She would tell me that you said you're going to go fishing, and you'll be gone all day or something, or like you'll get home at night or something. And I'm like, yep, that is a true fisherman, man. He's going to do it all day. That's determination. And I can see, I can see that to be who you are right now, as being as good as you are. Right. Cause I think for a lot of people, and I can see a lot of kids wanting to fish, but to have that passion to fish and to do it consistently, it takes that extra step, and so.
Yeah. I mean, like I was out there every moment I could. If I had the dispensable gas, I'll be out there fishing.
I know. I know college boys going out fishing all the time,
Yeah.
with not a lot of gas money.
Yep.
So, so what's the next plan? Okay, what is next for you? Obviously, you got these upcoming tournaments. You have maybe a wedding to plan for next year's championship in March.
hmm
What do you think the next progression for you will be?
For me, um, I've come to have like a understanding of what I want to do and what I want to chase. Uh, like I want to go pro.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and then how to get there. So I'm working on that, right? So as of right now, as I mentioned, I don't own a boat, but um, fishing in the kayak series for the Bassmaster, that takes me to the classic. And you know, I'm kind of gambling on the kayak series that it's gonna go big because, like I said, like the conservation is super. It's great.
Yeah.
Um, and then so I'm hoping for that to kind of blow up and them having their own like elite series, or to back that up, if it doesn't work out, I'm fishing the Bass Nation, uh, the co-angler side, where I could try to qualify for the classics that way and enter the elite series.
Okay.
It's a long journey, but it's something that I want. I'm willing to go through, and not only that, right? Like for me, like it didn't occur to me that you could do these. So so I know there are a lot of people out there who want to to go there as well. And even though like the internet is like, like there's unlimited information, but even if you were to go type up tournaments, like tournament fishing right now, you're gonna get thrown with like a load of informations like what's this, what's that, where does this take me? It's gonna be hard. So I like for me, I want to use my journey. I want to record my journey and hopefully share it on YouTube one day,
Hmm.
and so that others who want to get into this industry can follow those steps or use what I've done and apply it to themselves.
And I think you're right. I think if you keep track of it, and especially if you keep winning tournaments, guess what? I'm sure sponsors, other people out there is going to start noticing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, from what I've read and from what I watch, winning obviously helps, but if you're winning with their equipment, that equals sales for them. Because that's what some sponsors are.
Right.
For fishermen. And some people don't understand that for like, Kevin Van Dam to get sponsored. Well, you guess what? He's somewhat a salesman. He has to sell the equipment because he has to sell the lures and the rods or whatever it
Yeah.
is that he's using. If he's winning, guess what? That boosts his sales. And then he
Yeah,
gets,
and that's exactly it, right? Where all of us fisher guys were like, "Oh, what is he using? What gear is he using? What bait is he throwing?" And then
correct.
everyone's gonna want to go and get that exact combo or that exact lure because they're like, "He's using it, it's catching. If I use it, I'll catch too." you know. so, so yeah, it's true what you said.
I mean, Michael Jordan, for example, right? Be like Mike. But I mean, everybody wanted to go out and get, Jordans, right? I
hmm
myself had been, have fallen for that. And so, you know what? I see what KVD is using. I want to go buy the same thing. I see so and so is using. I want to buy the same thing, and it works. And if you're winning, obviously sponsors going to want to come to you and say, "Hey, can you use our products?" So
Yeah.
just a little tidbit for those that don't understand how sponsorship works, but it's tough, man. It's tough to get sponsors, though. So.
Yeah. And for those who are listening, sponsorship does not always mean free gears.
It's just that is so
You
true.
have to work hard
Yeah.
to earn those items.
I'm assuming, do you get it at a discount though? But you still got to buy it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of depends on how the contract works. I can't really speak for it because I don't have any sponsors, but but from the guys that I know who are sponsors, yeah, like there's and like a lot of these are unspoken because you know competitors are going to come through, and the more that everyone knows, it's like they might not be given that opportunity. So because they're
Oh,
going to lose it to the rest of the other guys.
yeah.
But I guess for me, like um, I don't like for me, I don't mind sharing those kind of information. And of course, you know, there are going to be like NDAs where it's like these stuff you can't mention, but then there are some stuff where it's like here are some things you should know before going into get a big sponsor thing on your jersey.
Yeah.
You know.
So with that being said, okay, who do you have sponsoring you? You said local shops or local stores and stuff?
Yep. So, like right now, I have PC Lore law firm.
Okay.
So they're a law office out here in Fresno. And I want to say a big congratulations to my sponsor because she actually became a judge.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, so unfortunately for me, I'll be losing my sponsor because their office is closed. But congratulations to her because
Well, you have more than one sponsors, I hope.
yeah. So yeah, really really happy for her because the first um the first female Hmong judge out here in Fresno,
Oh,
California.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so I have her. I have Aber, which is an Asian business, um, helping farmers, um, you know, work with other larger firms. I have Pokestop, which is the Poke Bowl place, a restaurant.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, I have Purple Fox, and they they help cater and like weddings for you. Um, and then I actually have Poke Mart, which is a Pokemon trading card game like store out there in Milwaukee that's supporting you. So
Oh,
a lot of these, yeah. So a lot of these are like my sponsors right now, and then I have what's called uh, Team Catchem. Because my Instagram name is Calvin Catchem, and a lot of these are just supporters along my throughout my journey that support me, and they just get their name put onto my jersey.
cool. Hey,
But yeah, that's one of the sponsors.
have you thought about starting a Patreon page or a Patreon?
A what? A
Pa-
Patreon page?
yeah, you know what that is?
I don't.
That's what some YouTubers do is they have a Patreon, which means you can subscribe to I don't know the channel whatever it is, right? I've heard of it. You subscribe to it, and it's like a monthly fee that you pay into. And so
Oh,
let's say there's a $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, $20 a month,
mhm.
and each level you get certain access. So let's say that $20 a month you do a meet and greet, right?
Okay.
Or you can post stuff and you know people get the latest results or whatever it is, you know, and people just kind of like a monthly subscription. I mean, I can send you more information, but you can just Google Patreon, and you know,
Yeah,
that's one way that YouTubers kind of make a little bit of money is having a
I
subscription.
I guess I'm pretty out of the loop because I didn't know what that was.
Hey, we're getting to the end of the podcast, but would you be willing to share your contact information if people wants to follow you? Do you have an Instagram or do you have something that you kind of post or a Facebook that you post to keep people kind of updated as to where you're at?
Yeah. So as of right now, I only have Instagram that I'm using. It's Calvin Catchem. So you can find me there, and then you know if you have any questions, you could always message me through there, or you know you could follow my journey. Um, I'm still working on a YouTube page, and it'll be the same thing once it comes out. I'll inform through Instagram, but as of right now, yeah, social media wise, Instagram, Calvin Catchem.
Okay. And then in regards to
Mhm.
your sponsors, if you want to shoot me like a text or something regarding your sponsors, I can list those under the description also.
Sure, I could do that.
Yeah. So I'll list, if you're listening, folks, if you want to follow Calvin's journey, all right, and let's hope, and I'm pushing for you to be a pro, my friend, is that, you know, if you want to follow Calvin's journey, you can follow him on Instagram. And if you want to support him, he does have sponsors. If you create a Patreon page or something, let me know, and I can put that on there too. Okay.
Will do.
All right.
Will do.
All right. Hey, Calvin, thank you, my man, for coming on and chit-chatting with me. Man, I'm happy for you, man. I'm happy for you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. When I found out and Nancy confirmed it, I got goosebumps. I'm like, man, all right. And, so anyway, any last, okay, I know you've kind of given advice, any last advice to aspiring fishermen like my son Neil that might want to turn pro or might want to get into it?
Yeah, I would say, start as soon as you can. Kind of gather up like what you want to really do, like the local level, nationals, state. Figure out what you want to do and get started right away. Don't wait around to get the most expensive gear. Just go and do it, and then everything will fall in place.
Cool. You guys hear it from the future champion. Hey, we'll be watching. I'll be keeping track, and if anybody wants to keep track of how Calvin's doing, you can look in the description and follow him along. Hey, thanks, Calvin, for joining me. If you guys like what you're listening to, please consider subscribing, share with your friends. All right, thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.